I presume you're here in order to learn of Magecraft. I'll have you know, there's no room for the weak-willed in this course, and despite your best efforts, the sorcery of our time is but a fraction of what it once was in the Age of Gods. Much of the craft is established through pedigree, and the culture of mages is riddled with deception and moral depravity. That said, if you insist, I shall do my best to educate you in this miserable, yet fascinating world. In our previous lesson, I covered various catalysts that mages use to summon heroic spirits. Moving forward, we will be focusing on something much broader. For that, we must ask the question, what does it mean to be alive? More specifically, what are the components that make up a living being? There are 3 such components: the body, mind, and soul. Generally, without the presence of all of them, the longevity of a person's existence becomes unstable. Thus, today's lesson will cover these components, both in how they relate to our reality, as well as simulated worlds like the moon cell. Let us start by differentiating these elements. One's body is the simplest to understand. It is our vessel in the physical plane, a collection of proteins, fat, bones, and electrons that give us our appearance and functionality. That functionality can decrease when damaged, with death being the state when the body shuts down. Countless things harm our bodies, most notably the passage of time. In the absence of mystery in Magecraft, death is inevitable, whether we sustain injury or succumb to the natural causes of aging. Because Magecraft is concealed from the general public and the Age of Gods is far behind us, it's not hard to see how many civilians believe that life is simply the process of having a functioning body. Without proof of the supernatural, there wouldn't be a need to delve further. Since we are mages, however, the truth is far more intriguing. The most critical organ in the body is, of course, the brain, where we process thoughts. Naively, one might think that one's mind and brain are one and the same, but that simply isn't the case. The mind is only one part of what makes up our memories and personality. To clarify, the mind is what comprises the personality and memories of our lived experiences. It is produced over a lifetime of encounters, being shaped continuously. Perhaps you've heard of the expression nature versus nurture. Aspects of our lives can occur through either of these factors, or a combination of both. Certain animals derive much of their behavior from birth, with instincts inscribed upon them through evolution. Mammals like us, however, tend to be born vulnerable, needing to learn how to live. The mind is most similar to such learned behaviors. It is so important that many believe losing one's mind is akin to becoming an entirely different person. On the other hand, we have the idea that parts of your personality remain static, present within you always. Pessimistically, this means no matter how hard you try to change, your fundamental core remains the same. For an optimist, this brings the comforting knowledge that you will still be yourself even as your mind deteriorates. This constant aspect of our mental landscape resides in our 3rd component, the soul. Souls exist beyond our mortal plane, in another dimension of sorts. They are immaterial by nature, made up of spirit particles, or spiritrons. Of the 3 components of a living being, the soul is certainly the most important, as it contains a record of the body and mind. It is also where our magic circuits are stored, which explains why we need spiritual doctors like Kirei Kotomine to cleanly extract or transfer them. Now, a common misconception is that because casting spells exerts us physically, our circuits must be attached to the body. In truth, the distinction is much foggier due to the soul needing a physical body to maintain its own form. As such, a lot of bodily procedures in Magecraft actually utilize both the body and soul in tandem. Changes to the body can affect the soul, just as much as changes to the soul can show up physically. For example, the soul contains genetic records of its host body, such that if a soul finds a new vessel, it can shape that vessel to match its original form. Generally speaking, souls that lose their bodies will disperse and return to the root from which they came. They are the one part of us that is immortal, but that's not quite as reassuring as it sounds. While mages often seek immortality, we cannot simply continue to transfer our souls between new bodies without consequence. Doing so causes the soul to rot and degrade. It may not completely disappear, but degradation will slowly but surely alter a soul's structure, in turn altering one's body and mind by extension. Only the most desperate of mages take this route, such as Zoken Mato, whose soul jumping has caused his possessed bodies to rot and his mind to stray from his humble intentions for the Holy Grail. Those intentions were, of course, to restore the third magic of Heaven's Feel, which is capable of materializing souls. Not only can this magic safely transfer souls from one body to the next without rotting, it can also allow souls to exist independently from the body. It is thanks to Heaven's Feel that Shiro Emiya is able to survive after his body is completely destroyed during the Fifth Holy Grail War. Ilyasvil von Einsburn, using her Dress of Heaven, preserved his soul until it could be transferred to a new body, one built by the mage Toko Aozaki. The Japanese hero, Shiro Amakusa Tokisada, seeks Heaven's Feel so that he can free all souls of their bodies as part of his utopian vision. Some think living exclusively as souls would be ideal, though plenty also insist that our corporeal forms are essential. At the very least, it seems controversial to force that vision onto others without their consent. As far as bodies are concerned, it's thought that only one soul can inhabit a single body at a time, though there are some exceptions. Homunculi such as Ilyasvil and her mother Airi were created and modified to be able to hold several souls. It's what allows them to serve as vessels for the Lesser Grail. The homunculus Sieg can channel the soul of Siegfried into his own body through the use of a command spell. Keep in mind that doing so is both temporary and costly. Then there's Hassan of 100 Faces, whose soul is compartmentalized, split into various souls. In life, this resulted in him having multiple personalities. As a heroic spirit, he was essentially freed from his body, allowing each of those souls to manifest independently. Fundamentally, that's what servants are, souls that inhabit bodies made of mana, tethered to our plane via a contract with the Grail or the planet's will. Without a steady supply of mana, heroic spirits vanish just like any other soul. Some malicious servants will opt to replenish their mana by feeding on other people's souls. Other spiritual beings, such as wraiths and unicorns, can do the same. While Magecraft can be used for humans to devour or merge with other souls, doing so is dangerous. The more it happens, the less the original human is able to remain themselves. Narrow Chaos, for example, has fused with so many other creatures that his own identity has been lost in the shuffle. With every incarnation, Michael Roa Valdemyong's sense of self blends in with those he possesses. It's worth noting that not all souls are considered equal. They have both purity and weight. Souls can start off pure and degrade over time. Becoming a heroic spirit often causes a soul to become more dense, potentially increasing its value. Gilgamesh, for example, has a soul worth hundreds of ordinary human souls. When defeated in a Holy Grail war, his soul fills the Lesser Grail far more than his competitors. Arguably the most comprehensive ritual regarding a person's living components was conducted in the Blackmoor Cemetery. There, a village worshipping Morgan Le Fay set out to try and resurrect King Arthur by combining her body, mind, and soul from different sources. To recreate Artoria's mental landscape, they made use of the Atlas superweapon Logos React, which can calculate complex simulations. For Artoria's body, they bore generations of children looking for a proper vessel. Eventually, they acquired Grey, a village girl whose physical shape horrifically transformed to match that of the king's. To obtain Artoria's soul, the villagers anticipated the Fifth Holy Grail War, betting on her to return as one of the servants. Because Grey was fundamentally her own person, that meant she had her own unique mind and soul to contend with. Since all the village needed was her body, they passed down a mystic code called Erosion, a dagger capable of separating a person's three components. Considering how tragic this would have been, I'm glad to announce that this ritual never actually came to pass. Lastly, I want to shift focus onto the Moon Cell. There, mages are effectively diving into a virtual environment via Spiritron hacking. While their real bodies remain on Earth, their mind and soul inhabit the moon cell's environment, Seraph, using what are called cyberframes. Just like in reality, cyberframes also consist of a mind, body, and soul. This is most relevant when Hakuno Kishinami, one of Seraph's inhabitants, is captured by the Titan Altera. In order to escape, their cyberframe splits into its 3 components, each manifesting individually for a time thanks to the power of the Regalia, a key item within the moon cell that commands its many functions. Hakuno's mind finds its way to the servant Nero and becomes her master. Hakuno's soul partners with Tamamo no Mae, and their body stays behind as Altera's captive. This proves to be but a temporary fix to Hakuno's dilemma, as their cyberframe deteriorates while its pieces remain separate. Normally, we would not be able to witness a body, mind, and soul individually, but each of these aspects has its own avatar in the moon cell. In summation, humans and other living creatures are each composed of a mind, body, and soul. All 3 are required for the others to exist. The body is literally our vessel in the physical world, and our brain is what lets us form our mind and consciousness. Intimately connected with the other 2 is the soul, which cannot exist in our reality without a body. Of the 3 components, the soul is the most important and versatile, but unless it is handled correctly, it can degrade as mages desperately seek immortality. Currently, the only way to preserve a soul outside its body is through the use of Heaven's Feel, though doing so carries its own moral quandary. For our next lesson, I want to revisit the idea of phantasmal species. In particular, I will further elaborate on fairies, which happen to be far more diverse than originally demonstrated. Thanks for watching!
If you enjoy this channel, help us grow by liking, commenting, sharing the video, subscribing to Otaku Daikun, and
most of all, smashing that notification bell so you don't miss out on all of our anime discussion, lore, or Let's Play content.
You can support us directly through Patreon, Subscribestar, or our YouTube membership, all of which come with benefits like exclusive vids and early access.
As always,
celebrate your fandom!
I want to give a special shout out to all my $10 and up supporters. Video Gamer 75, Elise Trash Fuskinko, Dante Pendragon, Stephen Elak, Samuel Gersten, The Nonchalant Ostrich, Otaku Mom, Jens Bauman, Mystic Samurai 1983, Lord Ormagoden, Free Brick, Olympian Doll, RNGer Shuffles 1498, Alexis Yukio Gomez Yamato, Link Pendrago, King Kobo, Observer Bellis, Flash Daniel, James Hewitt, Uncanny EXP, Andre Foster, Jared Krause, Game King, Caitlin P., Vladimirovna, Jonathan Padua, The Taz 96, Maxwell's Demon, Kengo X 77, Alester Bernadotte, SF Giants fan Mike, and Akakaze Yume. Thank you all so much.